You don't argue anymore. You calculate, you measure your tone, you edit your words, you prepare for impact, because you've learned that even calm conversations can explode. You've learned that facts don't protect you, that memory isn't reliable, at least not according to them, that being right doesn't mean you'll win. And somewhere along the way, you stop trusting yourself. If that feels uncomfortably accurate, keep watching. Sign 1. They listen to respond, not to understand. When you talk to this person, really talk to them, do you feel heard, or do you finish a sentence and feel a strange, quiet deflation, like your words dissolved before they landed anywhere? Narcissists don't have conversations. They hold audiences. Your hard week becomes a launchpad for their harder week. Your achievement becomes background context for their own frustrations. It happens so consistently that you stop noticing. You just notice the outcome. You feel invisible. And eventually, you stop sharing. Think about the last time you edited down exciting news before you told them, softened it, shrunk it, pre-managed their reaction before the conversation even started. That's not consideration. That's self-protection, and needing to protect yourself from someone who is supposed to be safe. That's the first sign something is fundamentally wrong. And here's where it sharpens. When you finally name it, you never really listen to me. They don't reflect, they redirect. Suddenly you're the one who communicates badly, too emotional, too demanding. A conversation about their behavior becomes, within minutes, a referendum on yours. Psychologists call this deflection, and its long-term effect is quiet but devastating. You stop naming things altogether, you make yourself smaller, and you call it keeping the peace. Sign 2. They need admiration like most people need air. Does this person's mood set the temperature of the room? Do you perform warmth and enthusiasm, not because you feel it freely, but because you've learned what happens when you don't? Psychologists use the term narcissistic supply to describe the constant stream of validation a person with NPD requires just to maintain stability. When it's interrupted, the response isn't disappointment, it's destabilization. Narcissists often look like the most confident person in the room. They command attention effortlessly. But when you witness the fragility underneath, the mood collapse because someone didn't respond warmly enough, the resentment when attention landed on someone else, it feels jarring, like two completely different people in the same body. That inconsistency is not confusion, it is the architecture. Your admiration becomes the scaffolding holding their internal world together, which means you are not in a relationship, you are in a role. Managing an ego that was never your responsibility. Here is what nobody tells you at this stage. Most people already feel it by now. That low hum of wrongness. That sense that the balance is off in a way they can't quite articulate. But here's what keeps people from naming it: the good moments. Because there are good moments. Real ones. Warm, present, even beautiful. The version of this person that made you choose them still appears, unpredictably, at exactly the right moment, and for a window of time, everything feels okay again. Behavioral psychology calls this intermittent reinforcement. Reward delivered on an unpredictable schedule produces stronger psychological conditioning than consistent reward. The unpredictability of when the warmth returns creates a vigilance that functions neurologically close to addiction. This is trauma bonding, not a weakness. A neurological response to an environment you didn't design and couldn't fully see. The reason you can't just leave, even when something is clearly wrong, isn't weakness, it's biology. It's a nervous system conditioned to hold on. Understanding that changes the question. It's not why can't I leave, it's what has been built around me that makes leaving feel impossible. Sign 3 is where you start to see the walls more clearly. Sign 3. Criticism doesn't land, it detonates. Have you ever raised a concern carefully, calmly, and watched something change in their face? Not hurt, not openness, something that closed, something cold. And then what followed wasn't a conversation. It was a response designed to make you regret starting one. There's a clinical term for what happens inside a narcissist when they receive criticism: narcissistic injury. Any perceived challenge to their self-image, no matter how gentle, registers as a profound psychological threat. The DSM-5 identifies this reactivity as a core feature of NPD. The response is called narcissistic rage. And it doesn't always look like rage. Sometimes it's 4 days of punishing silence that fills every room without making a sound. Sometimes it's a surgical attack on your character, something from 6 months ago, completely irrelevant, but precisely calibrated to put you on the defensive. Sometimes it's a guilt trip so perfectly constructed that you end up apologizing to the person who hurt you. But the version that does the deepest damage is the quiet flip. Your legitimate concern gets reframed as evidence of your instability. You raised your voice once, now you have anger issues. You cried, now you're erratic. You brought something up twice, now you're obsessive. They locate the one imperfection in how you delivered a valid point and use it to invalidate the point entirely. This works precisely because you are empathetic. A person with genuine empathy always leaves space for the possibility that they got something wrong. Narcissists have studied that space. They live inside it. They expand it until it swallows the original issue whole. How many times have you entered a conversation holding a clear, legitimate grievance and left it defending your own sanity? If the answer is often, that is not a reflection of your communication skills. That is a reflection of a system built to ensure accountability never lands where it belongs. If you're watching this and recognizing multiple signs, take a breath. You are not here to diagnose anyone. You are not building a case. What you are doing is observing a pattern. Every relationship has hard moments. That on its own means nothing definitive. What we are looking at is consistency, repetition, a shape that keeps appearing, regardless of the circumstances. Awareness is not accusation, it is the beginning of clarity. Stay with me, because understanding this fully is the only thing that actually helps. Sign 4. They use you, then make you feel grateful for it. Think about when this person was at their warmest, their most present, most generous, most attentive. Now ask honestly, what were they getting from you at that time? People with narcissistic traits are skilled at identifying exactly what a person needs to feel valued and providing precisely that, not from genuine care, as a means of securing what they need in return. You experience it as real connection. It registers as finally being truly seen. Then the utility shifts. You need something back. You challenge them. You become less convenient, and the warmth doesn't fade gradually. It switches off, completely, without grief. While you spend weeks trying to understand what changed, they have already moved on. The warmth was always conditional, tied not to who you are, but to what you were providing. And here is what makes this sign so quietly destructive. The better those good moments felt, the harder the cold becomes to make sense of. You don't get angry, you get confused, you work harder. You try to get back to something that was never unconditionally yours to begin with. That confusion is not weakness. It is the predictable result of warmth being used as a tool rather than offered as a truth. Measure how they treat you when they need nothing from you. That is the most honest version of who they are. Sign 5. They make sure you stay small. When did you last feel freely, unguardedly proud of yourself around this person? If you're struggling to answer, that absence is the sign. Narcissistic superiority is comparative. It only exists in relation to other people's smallness. So anyone who starts to rise becomes a threat that must be quietly managed. It's never frontal, it's a drip. A dismissive comment about your new opportunity, a backhanded compliment in front of others. You actually did really well. I was surprised. A well-timed concern. I just worry about you sometimes. Are you sure you're ready for this? Each drop seems small, forgivable even. But when you feel hurt and name it, what comes back? You're too sensitive, you can't take a joke. So now you're managing 2 wounds. The original hurt and the shame of having felt it. Next time you say nothing, you absorb it. And quietly, without noticing when it started, you stop announcing things. Stop celebrating. Stop taking up space. People who spend years close to a narcissist describe grieving the person they were before it. Someone who used to walk into rooms without calculating the risk. That person didn't disappear. They went quiet. Because quiet became the safest way to exist. And everything so far, the dismissal, the supply seeking, the rage at criticism, the conditional warmth, the slow erosion, it all exists to make sign 6 possible. Sign 6 is not just the worst sign on this list. It is the system that makes every other sign invisible. Sign 6, they rewrite reality and make you question yours. Has this person ever made you feel like you were losing your mind? Not dramatically, just the slow, creeping uncertainty about your own memory. A feeling that the ground keeps shifting and the only person who knows where solid footing is them. This is gaslighting, a documented form of psychological abuse with measurable consequences for the people subjected to it. Here is how it begins. Not with an obvious lie, with a small correction. That's not what I said. Maybe I misheard. You let it go. You're always so sensitive about things like this. Maybe I am. You file it away. I never said that. I can't believe you're twisting my words. And now something fractures. Because you were there. You heard it. But the certainty in their voice creates a crack in your own perception. That crack is the point. That crack is the goal. Over time, you start keeping notes. Screenshots, dates and exact words, because some part of you knows that without evidence, the version of events will not be yours. You start telling people what's happening because when you've tried, it came out sounding like paranoia, so you keep it inside, and the isolation deepens. Research on coercive control links prolonged gaslighting to generalized anxiety, depression, and complex PTSD, trauma that develops not from a single event, but from sustained psychological harm within a close relationship. You develop anxiety you cannot trace to a source, a vigilance that never fully relaxes, a nervous system that has been on alert so long, it has forgotten how to rest. You do not feel this because something is wrong with you. You feel this because something was done to you. Your gut was never wrong. It kept telling you the truth. Quietly, persistently, through years of being talked out of it. Trust it now. Sign 7. They play the victim better than anyone. When real conflict breaks the surface, who ends up holding the weight of it? Who apologizes? Who walks away carrying the damage? If the answer is always you, the same person who gaslit you, used you, silenced you, the moment consequences appear, transforms. They cry first. They tell the story first. They reach your shared friends and family before you've gathered yourself enough to speak, and by the time you find your voice, the narrative is already written. They gave everything. They were never appreciated. And you, the person who was actually hurt, are cast as the source of their suffering. This is projection, attributing their own behavior onto the person they've been hurting. It functions as the final lock on the entire system because it's not enough to control your perception of yourself. They must also control everyone else's perception of you. It works because we respond to tears, we move towards suffering instinctively, and by the time you're ready to explain what actually happened, you're already the villain in the story you lived as the victim. You are not required to outperform them. You are not required to convince anyone right now. Hold on to what you know, even quietly, even privately, even when the room has already decided. Before we close, 3 things. Not a therapy plan, just tools you can use starting today. 1. Stop arguing facts. Observe patterns. The negotiation over what happened is unwinnable by design. Facts can be disputed, but a pattern is harder to argue with. Zoom out. The full shape of the relationship across time tells the truth that any single incident cannot. 2. Document privately. After significant interactions, especially ones that leave you confused, write down what happened, the exact words, how you felt. Date it, not for anyone else, for you. When your perception is challenged, you'll have your own account to return to. 3. Measure behavior across time, not across apologies. The question is never whether an apology was made, it's what followed it. Did behavior change, measurably, consistently, over weeks and months? Or did the apology function as a reset before the cycle began again? Measure the ordinary moments, the unguarded ones, the ones where no one is watching and nothing is at stake. That is where the truth lives. You knew something was wrong before you had words for it. You felt it in the drop in your stomach when their name appeared on your phone, in the way your shoulders tensed before a conversation that should have been simple, in the way you rehearsed what you were going to say, like you were preparing for a negotiation, instead of just talking to someone you love. That knowing was never wrong. You were not too sensitive. You were not the problem. You were a person extending extraordinary patience and good faith to a dynamic that was never built to return it. If this video made something click for you, share it with someone who might be sitting with the same questions and no language for them yet. It could be exactly what they need to hear. And drop a comment with the number of the sign that hit closest to home. You don't have to explain it. You don't have to say anything else. Just the number is enough. If you want more content like this, subscribe. Because understanding your own psychology isn't just interesting, it's one of the most powerful things you can do for yourself. See you in the next one.